Hi, ladies. One of the things that I promised that I would share with you is some tips that make it easy for you to try and abandon the beige food, which historically some of us can be guilty of living on, and embrace some of the foods that I've been suggesting that we have as part of our midlife journey, while still being able to fit those foods in with running or being part of a busy family. So what I'm aiming to do here today is give you some tips for family foods that you can adapt and tweak to make them work for you. And then I've got some ideas for mid-morning and mid-afternoon snacks to stop you raiding the fridge and going for the things that we know aren't the most healthy for us, just because basically we haven't thought about things in advance. So I'm going to start with 6 family meal ideas. What I would suggest you do is get yourself a note paper and a pencil and jot down these ideas, and then amend them in a way that would work for you and your family, because obviously we all have different things that work for us. Some families are vegetarian, some families have got vegan in the family and vegetarians in the family and non-dairy in the family, and that makes it quite difficult to juggle everything. And some families are, have no restrictions at all. So I've tried to keep these very basic. Also, in my family, we love lots of herbs and spices, love Asian fusion food, but I know that a lot of children haven't reached that stage yet. So if you've got families that like fairly plain food, and I go sharing things with you to try that they're never going to eat, then that's not going to get anybody anywhere. So these ideas are real bog standard ideas, but what I'm going to share with you is ways to tweak them to make them tick the boxes that we're trying to tweak. So we'll start with the shepherd's pie, a bog standard shepherd's pie, fairly easy to make. Most people make it with beef, but what you can do is make it with a tiny bit of beef and bulk it out with green lentils. Now, I know that sounds a bit barking mad, and in fact, the recipe is in the portal for you. So if you cook some lentils, or you buy a tin of cooked lentils, or you buy those sachets of cooked lentils, and you fry off your meat with your onions and any garlic or spices or celery or carrot or anything that you add to what is your favorite shepherd's pie, and you mix the meat with the lentils, I would be slightly surprised if there was a great uproar amongst a family. So what you're doing is you're reducing your red meat, you're increasing your protein through a plant-based source, and that ticks that box. And then with that shepherd's pie, if your family are up for it, cook half sweet potato and half normal white potato. So white potatoes take a little bit longer to cook. So you start boiling your white potatoes, and then you shove in a couple of sweet potatoes. And instead of just mashing white potato, you mash the sweet potato and the white potato together. Sweet potato's got a slightly different carbohydrate makeup for you, so it's marginally better, but it adds another vegetable into the mix. If that's a step too far, stick with the lentils and stick with the white potato on top. So there's the first idea. Second idea, really simple, really, really simple. Get a massive oven tray, shove a chicken in the middle of it. If you want to shove an onion in the chicken, fine. If you don't, it doesn't matter. Take a whole bulb of garlic and put that in the corner of the baking tray and cook the whole garlic whole. And then you can squeeze out the lovely cooked garlic and spread it on the chicken if you want to, but if you don't, it doesn't matter. But surround that chicken with chopped, not finely chopped carrots, chopped potatoes, sweet potato. You can do chunks of onion, peppers, cherry tomatoes, anything that comes to mind. For it could be swede in the winter months, it could be Brussels sprouts, but basically just do a massive tray bake. That means that you can stock up on vegetables. You haven't got cabbage that's been boiled to within an inch of its life with your roast chicken. And if you prefer not to eat the meat, you can fill up on your vegetables. So that's a really simple thing. Okay. Third one is quite a popular one for me. I think most of you know that I've got a fairly large family, and 3 boys when they were younger ate like horses. Absolutely. They would eat a whole bag of pasta. They'd eat a whole chicken. And it's very difficult if you're portioning out food for your family to be aware that they need that and you don't. So spaghetti bolognese. We, in fact, in our family used to have a spaghetti bolognese that was made from bacon. In fact, we've actually omitted the bacon now, and it's purely a tomato sauce. It doesn't matter what it is, whatever your sauce is, you, instead of having a whole portion of pasta, make yourself some spiralized courgette, or buy courgette, or buy spiralized, what is it, butternut squash, or something like that. And if you take just, you know, those pasta holders that look like that, pasta spaghetti scoops, if you have one small spaghetti scoop and you put it on top of your spiralized courgette, and then your sauce on the top, you're getting another vegetable there. You're not having quite as much beige carbs on top, and you're getting the spaghetti bolognese top. So there's another idea. It's quite a good way of increasing your plant-based bulk. It may be that you can dump the pasta altogether. My husband loves pasta. No, he doesn't. He loves carbs. So he would never go completely carb free, and nor should he, and nor should we. But what we're looking to do is to try and bring some new ideas in. So that's one. Really simple, the old bangers and mash. A little tip with bangers and mash: the more expensive the sausage is, the more likely it is that one or two will fill you up. Now, if you're anything like me, who was brought up in the 3 fish fingers, 3 sausages, 2 shredded wheat, 2 Weetabix brigade, we're used to seeing a certain amount of food on your plate. But if you go to a butcher's, if you eat meat and you get really good sausages, the likelihood is that after one, you'll think, yeah, actually, I'm nearly full up. And you probably after 2, you'll think, yes, I am full up. So it's looking at your meat content. And then the other thing, bangers and mash, mix white potato with sweet potato as your mash, again, like we said at the beginning. Or in fact, your mash could be mashed cauliflower, which makes a really nice mash, or it could be mashed Sweden carrot. It could be some other kind of mash. So I'm just trying to get you to think slightly out of the box. And the family don't all have to have it. It could be something that works for you. Stir fry. One of the little tips that I think is quite useful in a stir fry: if you do a big stir fry of loads of vegetables, we tend to put the noodles in with the vegetables. That's generally how it's done, and then plonk it all on your plate. If you serve the noodles separately, you can have a higher vegetable to noodle allocation on your plate. So it could be that you take out some of the stir fry veg first of all for you, all right, then add the noodles for everybody else, okay, and then just put yours on your plate without as many noodles, or in a way that works best for you. So that's just another little thing to think about. And finally, I think probably for the last 7 or 8 years of the time that the kids were living here, one of the things that was really popular in our family was the fajita pizza. So you can buy packs of tortilla wraps. The tortilla wraps range between being the small ones and then the slightly bigger ones. And we would buy a pack of fajita wraps. You take one of those wraps and you brush the top and the bottom with olive oil, just literally brush it, and then put it on a baking tray. And then you take a squirt, sorry, very visual here, aren't I? A squirt of tomato puree, but it could be passata, although that tends to be a bit wet. And then you get all the family to build their own pizza. So you could have prawns on it, you could have spinach on it. Well, obviously you can have whatever you like on it, can't you? But that enables you to load your pizza, and they're nice and crispy with those thin tops. That enables you to load your pizza with loads of vegetables and the protein that you want, tofu, prawns, or whatever, it doesn't matter. And the kids can know, piling high theirs with cheese. It's also quite a good meal that you can encourage the kids to get for the family, because what we tend to do is open a tin of sweet corn, put that in a bowl, somebody grates the cheese, put that in a bowl, somebody puts the prawns in a bowl. So in the center of the table, there's all these little bowls, and then when we come to make them, we all make our own pizza up together. But that means that you could actually be doing something else. You could be in that bath, you could be putting moisturizer on yourself, you could be putting the Roots hair dye on, you might go to the hairdressers. Do something for you and get them perhaps to be involved in that meal. So there we are: shepherd's pie, a tray bake of roasted chicken, actually, or any meat, a spaghetti bolognese with spiralized courgette or other spiralized vegetables, bangers and mash with half and half mash of some description, stir fry where you don't add the noodles to the vegetables so that you can up your plant content, and then finally the fajita pizza. So there's some bog standard middle of the week meals. And if I can come up with some others, I will definitely share them with you. Let's move on now to mid-morning snacks, because I think that often the reason why we're grazing is because we're not eating enough at main meals, or when we go to graze, we're just reaching for something and it's the wrong thing. I think it's harder in the afternoons to avoid grazing. That's when we're more likely to reach for the cakes or something very, very sweet. It's one of the things I will say is this is far less likely to be an issue if you're properly hydrated. So 2 litres of water during the day, every day, if possible, will really help with this. And one of the things that I have by my desk when I'm working is just a mug of hot water. If I'm concentrating on what I'm doing and I'm drinking and I'm doing what I'm doing, I hardly can even tell you what it is I'm drinking. It's just that process of drinking that is what I want, and for my mouth not to get dry. And so you can often get more water in just by drinking hot water when you're busy working. So that's something. Okay. So morning snacks that may be a good idea for you. So there's a green smoothie, a classic green smoothie that actually might replace a whole breakfast for you. There's quite a lot of components to it, and I'll put the green smoothie in the recipe list. It could be something that you could make yourself, but actually it makes quite a lot, so as you could share it amongst the family if they wanted it. And you can play with the greenness in it. Boiled eggs, a little tip on a Monday morning or a Sunday night: cook 6 boiled eggs and keep them in a box in the fridge. A boiled egg is it's a really good ready meal. It's high protein, it's low fat, it'll fill you up, and it's convenient, and it's carry aroundable. So the boiled egg is a really good idea. Oat cakes, rather than digestive biscuits, oat cakes high in protein because of the oats. 1 oat cake with a spread of peanut butter, almond butter, cashew nut butter, something ideally not full of sugar. I think it's, it's called Skippy. Those sorts of things are full of sugar, so you don't really want to have that if possible. But you want a nice proper nut butter. But 1 oat cake with some nut butter will really take the edge off your hunger mid-morning and mid-afternoon. You could also have 2 oat cakes, but with hummus. So peanut butter is slightly higher fat content, therefore it's slightly higher calorie content. You know, we're not actually talking about calories, but we're also talking about weight gain. So I'm not suggesting that you start measuring things out. 1 oat cake with peanut butter or 2 oat cakes with hummus. Hummus made from chickpeas. You can buy it. Leon do a really nice ready-made one, as do obviously loads of other people. And also there's a recipe for hummus in the program for you, which you might like to make yourself if you're that way inclined. Okay, moving on to the afternoon, and some people will have a snack mid-morning and mid-afternoon, so therefore you need to be a little bit careful. But if you're going to have a snack in the afternoon, these might be slightly more appealing. Take an apple, cut it in half and then slice it. Put it beautifully sliced on a plate and have 1 teaspoon of peanut butter on the side of the plate and dip the apple in the peanut butter. There's something about being given an apple that's already sliced that is that much more satiating than picking up an apple and eating it. It also takes that much longer for you to eat it. So that could be something you can do. And again, you could slice a couple of apples at the beginning of 2 days, for instance, put a bit of lemon juice on them and then keep them in the fridge. And that's something that's easy for you to snack on. The same goes with carrots, which you can also peel if you need to and put into sticks and dip them into hummus. So probably 2 teaspoons of hummus on the side of the plate, and dip your carrots into your hummus is a good idea. I've already shared some ideas for some power balls or power bars, depending on how you shape them, the chocolate and chia ones and other ones that are here. I would definitely suggest you making a batch or even 2 batches of those and then freezing them. They're really good. They're good for the kids to have when they come in from school. They're not overly sweet. They're packing some protein into you, so that's a good idea. Sometimes you want something a little bit different. 2 tablespoons of plain, natural, not low fat, certainly not low sugar yogurt, with perhaps about a dessert spoon of granola, something just to add some crunch. You could also put a couple of blueberries in there if you like. If you're wanting something a little bit more, I suppose, almost robust, or something to nibble like you're eating ice cream or something, that could be a good idea to have in the afternoon. I think I have shared, if not, I will, the recipe for the heartache chocolate brownie made with aubergines. Again, this is packed full of stuff that's good for you, as well as, it's always got a chocolate thing with me, hasn't it? As well as having chocolate in. So a heartache chocolate aubergine brownie. One thing, if you've seen that recipe, is the brownies are amazingly bouncy when they first come out of the oven. And then by the next day, if you've got any left, they become quite firm and fudgy. So they go from being one texture to another texture the next day. Both is nice, but they are quite different. And where have we got to then? A mug of hot chocolate. Sometimes, particularly in the winter months for me, if I've done a really long run and I come in and I'm cold and shivery, I love a proper hot chocolate. And I make that with 1 teaspoon of cocoa powder, a tiny bit of stevia, and then almond milk or oat milk, sometimes soy milk if I've got it in the fridge. And that, again, ticks a lot of my sweet boxes. I've just realized I've missed out a morning one. I apologize. And that is miso soup or bone broth. I make my own bone broth. I sound like flipping Nigella Lawson here, don't I? When we have a roast chicken, and we don't eat that much meat anymore, but when we have a roast chicken, we bung the chicken carcass, all the skin, all the bones, any leftover onion or dead vegetables that we haven't eaten, goes into the slow cooker. I cover it with water and I leave it simmering for 2 days, often with garlic in it as well, 2 days. And it simmers down to make a really meaty, collagen-packed stock, which we then use for risotto. Last night we made a po, a Vietnamese po, so it's a really good stock for all of those things. But also, because it's so savory, it's really quite satiating. So you could have a mug of bone broth as well if you were starving hungry. But also miso soup. You can buy miso sachets and make your own miso soup as well. So let's just recap. Green smoothie, boiled egg, oat cake 1 with peanut butter, 2 oat cakes with hummus, slices of apple with peanut butter, sticks of carrot with hummus, power balls or bars that you've got the information for, yogurt with a tablespoon, dessert spoon of granola, 2 tablespoons of yogurt with 1 dessert spoon of granola, aubergine brownies, hot chocolate, and the bone broth. And then also I mentioned the plant shakes that may be an option for you, that you can get a discount code through from me, because they're my son and daughter-in-law's company. So I'll give you the link for that. And then finally, the only other thing I wanted to share with you, just for convenience really, as a way of really helping you live this nutritious, healthier life going forwards, is on a Sunday, if particularly when I had all the kids at home and we were doing a Sunday, I'm not going to say roast, but a Sunday meal, I would always cook a whole butternut squash in the skin in the oven. The whole thing I put in the oven. I would cut an aubergine in half, wrap it in foil, and I would cook that. I'd have 3 or 4 sweet potatoes that I would bake in the oven whole, completely unadorned, and even a cauliflower. And all of those vegetables would roast. There's no spices on them, no salt and pepper on them. But then during the week, you've easily got the makings of cutting up a bit of that butternut squash and putting it with some fricassee for lunch with some balsamic dressing, cutting up some of that aubergine and putting it with some lettuce or some prawns or whatever. If some of the hard work is done at another time where you're cooking something else, it makes it much easier for you to have healthier lunches or healthier snacks during the day. And then finally, I'll leave you with one thing. When you cook a meal, if you can put what you want to eat on your plate and take your plate and sit down and eat it, ideally at a table, you are less likely to continue to eat. I say this because when we have those grazing meals, which are so lovely, aren't they? You can pile up your plate with all the stuff that you want initially, and then you still see there's a bit of brie left. There's a bit of that left. There's a bit of that left. I'm going to have a bit of that. Whereas in fact, if you piled all that on your plate in the first place, you would have thought, gosh, that's too much food. And so if we can put what we want to eat on our plate and then go to the table, you are less likely to get that whole portion distortion thing. I hope that's been really helpful. Some little tips to share. Do share any ideas you've got, and I will look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye.